Good morning, welcome to Universal Studios Hollywood. We have so much to check out, from Halloween Horror Nights to Super Nintendo World to Studio Tour and so much more. So let's pop in the park and see what's new. The first thing to see is the Horror Nights plaques. These come up when they start putting up gory details in the park. I look forward to seeing what they put up. And right in front of the Universal Plaza, we have our first Halloween Horror Nights scare zone, Sideshow Slaughterhouse, which turns New York Street into a battle zone as the performers and workers from a seedy carnival sideshow are on a murderous rampage. And we already have some props on the left and right side of the entrance. We are probably going to have some flamethrowers up above. And next to the newsstand, we have a fortune teller and palm reader. We don't know yet whether this is going to be a figure, a puppet, or a person that's inside. There is a door in the back. Not quite sure if that reveals what it's going to be. Now, right behind the entrance, we have some more figures, including a bearded lady and somebody holding a snake. In the Universal Plaza, we have another very cool event. They have started setting up for the Celebramos Dia de los Muertos. You can see the Coke refreshment stand has gotten a decoration. We're going to have a bar right in front of La Llorona. Plaza de los Muertos stand. This is likely going to be for merchandise. And there's a beer stand over here, some figure here where the Grinchmas stage usually is. And right over here, more figures. And right next to these figures, of course, we have a beautifully decorated hearse. So this might be used for the La Llorona queue. It says the legend of La Llorona. La Llorona is also known as the Weeping Woman. She has been seen as part of the Hispanic culture since the days of the conquistadors. She is tall, thin spirit, said to be blessed with unnatural beauty and long flowing black hair. She wears a white gown and roams the lakes and rivers at night. La Llorona weeps and wails as she searches for sleeping children to drag screaming into a watery grave. This is all prep for, of course, the La Llorona maze, which, while it received an official announcement this week, has no new details other than the name La Llorona, the Weeping Woman. And here in the Parisian streets outside of the La Llorona maze exit is going to be all of these really cool standees. Let's take a closer look at all of them. So this is the exit to the La Llorona, the Weeping Woman maze, and heading out into the scare zone of El Pueblo del Terror. Guests discover there is no escaping the frightened legend along with other supernatural characters from Latin America's most frightening myths. Let's see who these characters might be. Here we have a figure. That's the name. I'm not going to try and pronounce that one. Here's one for the Chupacabra. Next to the Chupacabra, we have some coffins and boxes. Across from the exit of the maze, we have a screen. Don't know if this is going to be a poster or a video screen. Next to that, we have El Charro Negro. And across from El Charro Negro is that wagon that we saw in the Curious George parking lot. Next to the wagon cart is a skeleton, up top a skeletal horse, and this Halloween standee next to potentially another screen. Now across from these, we have Puesto del Periodicos. We have another wagon and potentially more screens, some more coffins, and another standee. So this whole street here is going to be part of the scare zone for the La Llorona house. Speaking of horror, we have one very big announcement that I'm very excited for, which is something Universal Orlando Resort has had for a while. The Death Eaters in Hogsmeade, they're coming here to Universal Studios Hollywood. That means the Wizarding World of Harry Potter will be open during Halloween Horror Nights, and will have a little bit of a scary element to it. And right across from the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, outside Animal Actors, we have some more props. Now, I don't know what these are for, but they do say Haunted Forest on them. This one over here is some sort of ram, and this one over here, Beware Haunted Forest. We have some sort of dead scarecrow here, and right below it is a dead mouse. Right above that dead scarecrow are these bird cages which have string lights in them. Over here we have another scarecrow with ram's horns next to a three-headed pumpkin skeletal beast of something saying journey no further. We also have this really cool elk king. This one still has some blue masking tape on it. We have another skeleton. We have another pumpkin beast, a skeleton, some sort of beast creature skeleton remains, another skeleton, and guess what? Oh yeah, we have another skeleton. Now guess what's to the right of that skeleton? Oh my goodness, 1, 2, 3, 4 more skeletons. And next to this character, we have over here the one big physical prop here in the scare zone, which is, this appears to be the exact same werewolf from the 2014 American Werewolf in London maze here at Universal Studios Hollywood, and also appears to be the same mold from the American Werewolf in London at Universal Studios in Orlando. On the backside of this werewolf is this knight figure and some sort of skeletal spider. So all of this is all in the queue area, the loading area for Universal's animal actors. Heading into Springfield, USA, and while there is going to be no Horror Nights Scare Zone in here, the Simpsons ride will be open for Halloween Horror Nights. And instead of doing the studio tour, which I usually do to start of the morning, I'm going to head to the lower lot. But before even getting down to the lower lot, I think we need to check out some Super Nintendo World. Let's start with that blue wall, which we'll get a better look at from the lower lot, but you can see they have started painting the entirety of the wall blue. The warp pipe, for a third time, has changed color. It's almost teal a little bit. The piranha has been exposed, so you can see the mechanical arm that will be bobbing it up and down. A mushroom has also been exposed. This was covered up in some sort of tarp last week. And underneath, to the left of the pokey, we have some brand new question mark blocks. And there's no new update here on Bowser's Castle, but that doesn't mean it's not fun to look at how pretty it is. And looking inside, you can see a little bit of work on the Bowser statue and some tape marks on Bowser's feet, which make up the turrets of the castle. And we don't have really any updates here on Mount Beanpole. We'll check when we get a little bit closer, but here's just a closer look at all of the fun interactive figures, trees, question mark blocks, pile boxes, all sorts of stuff here on Mount Beanpole. It just looks absolutely beautiful. Also from up here on the Starway, we can look at the Universal Monsters Legends Collide maze, which other than a foldable chair out front, doesn't really have much update. No update to the back of the house either, but we do have an exciting announcement, which is Killer Klowns from Outer Space, which has been rumored for months and months and months, has finally been announced to be coming here to the lower lot. We'll get a look at that from the studio tour. Now let's head into the lower lot. Now right above the newly opened character shop, which opened last week featuring Super Nintendo World merchandise, I didn't even notice this from the Starway, but Mount Beanpole has a new block on the side of it. And here next to Transformers The Ride 3D, we have the warp pipe and the brand new blue wall, where it does look like the cloud that was here last week is gone, but this still does look like a sky to me. And here between Transformers and the Mummy, here's our look at the warp pipe at Super Nintendo World and its new color. But you know, while we are here in the lower lot, it's been a couple weeks since I've been on Transformers. Let's head on. And Transformers is always a fun ride, especially when, like me, you're with a group of tourists who had never been on the attraction before, so they're all screaming and having a good time. I wanted to come into Jurassic Outfitters really quickly, not to show off any new merchandise, but to tell you guys I have a fun new video coming up on the channel where I see some Jurassic World and Jurassic Park fan-made vehicles, so stay tuned for that. It's coming later this week. Outside of Jurassic World the ride, here are the wait times. Nothing is more than 20 minutes, with Jurassic World and The Simpsons being tied for the longest waits in the park. Look at this. You can barely see anything here because of the mist coming out in the Super Silly Funland splash pad. Look at the entrance to Super Silly Funland right now. It looks like we're heading into Horror Nights with all this fog. Here's our look at Super Nintendo World, starting over here on the warp pipe, where you can see there's been a lot of ground clearing. To the left a little bit is Peach's Castle, which seems so far behind the rest of the land. There's really no theming elements on it yet. Next to Peach's Castle, we can see that both piranha plants have been exposed. Underneath that newly revealed red mushroom, we now have a green shell, which is also going to slide back and forth, same as that red mushroom is. To the right of the entrance of Bowser's Castle, we have these new concrete footers, which are likely going to be for poles used for queuing. Other than that, not much to see here of Nintendo, but here is our look at the Killer Clown from Outer Space maze facade. Again, we will see that at the studio tour. To the left of Super Nintendo World is the former commissary area, which has way more construction equipment than last week, and it looks like they are moving forward at full steam. To the left of the commissary is the Creative Campus, which we'll see from the studio tour, but it does look like they've added some machinery to the roof of or behind the Creative Campus building. Now, every time I leave the former smoking section, I do have to say, do not smoke, it kills you. And heading through the literal fog, there's actually some more Horror Nights props here for the Llorona Scarezone that we have not looked at yet. And the first is this gargoyle, which has a huge history with the park. According to John Murdy, who's the creative portfolio lead here at Halloween Horror Nights, this is the oldest prop in the inventory for Halloween Horror Nights, and it goes all the way back to the old Dracula Castle show from the 70s and 80s, which was where the special effects show is today. And behind the gargoyle, we have some new horror decorations right here on the Minion Cafe. We have some window dressing here. Spooky on the inside. Halloween. And over here, a very fun Minion decoration. Coming around Pets Place, an hour and 15 minutes after park opening, Secret Life Pets Off the Leash only has a 15-minute wait. And speaking of John Murdy, we did learn a lot more things through his Twitter, including right here. The Walking Dead is not coming back this year, but this will be the location of Universal's Horror Hotel. Universal's Horror Hotel lives up to its reputation as the original owner, who was executed years ago for his dastardly deeds, continues to haunt the place today. And guests must escape his vengeful spirit or risk becoming a permanent resident. Now, we do know this house will not have any sort of facade, but will have a pre-show with some fun animated figures. Next to the Hudson Gate, we also learned that La Llorona is going to be a mix between the previous two La Llorona mazes, kind of a best of both scenario. And I didn't even mention Clownsawz, who are going to be coming to the entrance of the park, who are going to be chasing you with some chainsaws. But before we head on the studio tour and check out what's coming to Halloween Horror Nights over at the Special Effects stage, I do want to do a quick character break. First, it looks like we have Shrek coming over. You got me, Shrek. You got me. Oh, you're the best. Wait, it looks like we have Scooby-Doo here.
Gang's coming out.
Headed now towards the studio tour, and we're looking at the special effects show, where we do have a couple of interesting updates. First is Jabbawockeez is coming back. The second, related, is the Jabbawockeez mask, which is usually here outside the special effects show, has returned. It is currently sitting inside of the special effects show. They're waiting to bring it out because last time it got a little bit damaged a little too early, so they're going to wait until closer to Horror Nights to bring it back out. Now, let's head and go do the studio tour. Very excited to head here on the studio tour because I hear there are a lot of big updates. Now, right underneath the studio tour, there's a sign saying they're dressing the park for Horror Nights, so we are going to see some scary things. Starting the tour, it was great to get the back row, even so late in the day, and it looks like our Jurassic World friend was still in his place, although he was missing his Memorial Day or July 4th hat and fireworks. Maybe we'll see him decked out for Horror Nights. Anyway, here's our look at the creative campus, where it does look like the left side has seen the most progress and the top level has risen up a little bit higher. While we didn't get a look in the back of Super Nintendo World, we did get to drive through the newly announced Killer Klowns from Outer Space house. This house is going to be a carbon copy from its previous iteration, and while the sides were covered by soundproofing tarps, the front was clearly exposed as AstroTurf, fencing, and shrubbery were waiting to be placed. It does look like Quantum Leap is taking over Courthouse Square for the foreseeable future, indicated by the Lion Estate signs, which moved to be visible from the tram route. There are also some cranes visible on New York Street. Over in the flash flood scene, one of the windows was not opening or closing, and stuck in its open state, you can see the mechanism that shoots out the water. Not much to see at the new sound stages back in Little Europe, but over at Earthquake the Big One, while the fire explosion was working, there were no sparks coming from the ceiling, so we're still missing some effects. Colonial Street is finally open after months of closure to the studio tour because of Quantum Leap, Never Have I Ever, and most recently Ted taking over. And it does look like at least a couple of houses seem to have gotten a fresh coat of paint. These are likely the ones that were on camera. Heading over to the former Whoville and current production cars section of the studio tour, the facade for the Terror Tram drop-off has been extended, and we'll likely see paint on it soon. Here's a look at the extensive lighting, sound, and fencing outside the Bates Motel. And outside the Psycho House, Norman Bates chased our tram with a knife in this alternate appearance. The Terror Tram is going to be hosted by Halloween Harry and will also feature Jordan Peele's Nope and Us. Before getting off the tour, the Scarecrow the Reaping House has now been completely blocked off by soundproofing tarp, while the Halloween House front is barely visible. As always, leaving the tour, I want to wish you all a tram-tastic day. So the studio tour was awesome. There was so much exciting stuff there with Nintendo and the Lower Lot, Creative Campus, and Horror Nights. And speaking of Horror Nights, here is a look at the Waterworld maze, which is the Horrors of Blumhouse. Not much to see there. So you know what? Let's teleport to the Curious George parking structure to check on some Horror Nights there. Okay, and here from the Curious George parking structure, let's peer over the edge and check out some Horror Nights. Okay, Scarecrow the Reaping House, I see you. And it looks like, the Scarecrow has come back. It's back to its normal spot. We now have some dressing covering the door. We have dead branches going up the side of the house. We now have crows on top of the house because, of course, you can't have a scarecrow without the crows that it's meant to scare. We have a lot of theming elements out front. We have two lighting trusses that have been added to either side of the Scarecrow house, and right here, a brand new lighting truss that's going to light up the front of the house. There has been nighttime lighting going on in the houses. You can also see on the left and right hand sides of the house, we have brand new black fences that have been added. Now to the right of the Scarecrow house, where all those pallets used to be, looks like they have now dug up the side of the hill here. I don't know what they're trying to do. Maybe flatten it for pavement or something here. Leaving this giant mound of dirt, it does look like the Killer Snacks booth from down here has finally gone away. To the left of the Scarecrow the Reaping house is, of course, the Halloween house. And it doesn't really look like we have too much here. Those black pylons are still there. We still have a lot of lighting work over here to the side. But we do have those 3 lighting pylons out front, which are going to be lighting the front of the house. So on that note, let's head to Universal City Walk Hollywood for some updates. And here we are at City Food. Let's check out some updates. The first thing is we do have to say goodbye to the Poke Bar between the Habit Burger and Taco Bell up here in City Food. It will be missed. But now we are about to get our best look ever at the Toothsome Chocolate Emporium and Savory Feast Kitchen. Starting here, just looking at the outside, we have no update on the physical structure of the building, other than looking at the second floor balcony, we now have an arched roof structure that appears to have been modified slightly. And on the first level, we now have a cross beam outside the doorway. They're likely going to be redoing the doorway now, which has been completely ripped out. Over here to the right side, here's a closer look at those newer windows. And here's a look at the extensive ground clearing and repaving work being done outside Toothsome Chocolate Emporium and Savory Feast Kitchen. And here's our look inside. Wow, we have not gotten this good of a look inside, well, in ever, really. And not just on the first floor, we can also see up in the second floor, and it looks like that wall that's right in front of the balcony is still there. That was here back when this used to be a Hard Rock Cafe, but now it is transforming into Universal's Toothsome Chocolate Emporium and Savory Feast Kitchen. And on that note, thanks so much for watching this update. I'll see you guys in the next one.